humans, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jamie Wolfer. I'm your online wedding planner. In today's video, I am packing it full of free or nearly free, like super cheap, online resources to help you plan your wedding. Because, and now this is a rather hot take for a wedding planner, professionally, I think you can honestly almost 100% plan your entire wedding online. And I might get canceled by other wedding planners for saying that, but there are so many free resources or really inexpensive resources right at your fingertips that you can implement and really smash this whole wedding planning thing. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it. So I had some criteria for adding things onto the list. They had to fall into one of three categories. It either had to be local specific and searchable, content-based, where it would be educational, where you can learn how to plan a wedding. And then lastly, it had to be actual wedding planning, something actionable, something that's beyond just like looking for information, right? We're searching out there, learning about how wedding planning goes, but actually transferring it over into action later. So first section, this is all about going local or local to where you're getting married. While most people would think I'm just gonna go to Google or I'm gonna go to The Knot, see my thoughts on The Knot here, because there's some spicy stuff happening behind the scenes with this whole situation. So no, I don't typically recommend searching The Knot, okay? Just go read Knot reviews. And then you've got Google, which ultimately just means that you're finding the people who paid the most to be at the top spot. One of my absolute top favorite online resources of all time for searching for vendors, especially in your local area, is Facebook groups. Love it or hate it, guys. Facebook groups is my top spot. In fact, in the past, that is literally where I will go look for new vendors for my clients instead of going to Google. Because I can easily go into a Facebook group and say, hey guys, I'm looking for a photographer for $2,500 with a second shooter for 8 hours in Austin, Texas. Who do you got for me? Who have you worked with? Who is your photographer? Who do you recommend? And watch the answers just come trickling in. It's the best, most comprehensive way to search for vendors from real life people who have actually worked with them. So even if you hate Facebook with a passion, I was talking to someone recently and she was like, I hate Facebook groups. I'm like, I get it. But there is literally no other platform that you can do this on that is localized, that you can get this hyper specific with and get real life people feedback. Try searching for a $1,500 photographer in St. Louis, Missouri on Google. You're gonna get a lot of varied results, and my guess is you're probably not gonna get what you're looking for. A local Facebook group is where it is at. Now, if you don't have one that's local to your area, you can always try a larger Facebook group. I love ours. We got like 60,000 people in there. It's absolutely insane. It's the most beautiful, wholesome little group. It's this great budget wedding planning community. I'm gonna go ahead and link it right up here if you guys wanna check it out. I'll leave it in the description if you decide that you want to check it out later. In fact, all of these will be in the description. So whenever we're done, or I'm done yammering, you can go ahead and take a look at those, all right? Secondly, and this is something I've mentioned in an online resource video before, Instagram. Instagram is a fantastic place. And for those who hate social media, you're just groaning. You're like, oh, I don't want to. If you are in Houston, for example, and look up #Houston wedding planner, you're going to find wedding planners who work in Houston. And then you have an excellent example of their work to kind of filter through. If they show up on stories, you have like an idea of who this person is, what they sound like, how they operate. You can go to their website. It really helps to hone down those searches, again, in a free capacity, and then you can do the exploring yourself. The only hang up for this one specifically is obviously you won't know price point until you reach out. That's why I like the Facebook groups for this a little bit better. However, once you find, say, a photographer from the Facebook group that fits with your price point, right? You then go to their Instagram and see all the other vendors they have tagged. This is like one of the top hacks to end all hacks, all right? If you book someone that's within your price range, ask for a preferred vendors list or go to their Instagram, because usually that means that the other vendors they're working with are generally gonna fall in the same range. So if you found a photographer that works with your budget, they're probably gonna, generally speaking, work with venues that are relatively within your budget. It helps to narrow down the search a whole lot, because a lot of this stress of like picking out these vendors is the sheer enormity of it, or the sheer scarcity of it. I've had people say stuff like, I'm in a small town, there's not a lot of options. I get that. Sometimes that might mean you need to travel a little bit or have vendors travel to you. Some will drive up to an hour and a half, 2 hours with absolutely no travel fees, no mileage whatsoever. So don't get discouraged. There's probably someone local enough to you to make this work. But don't sleep on Instagram, because then you can find all these other vendors or ask for a preferred vendors list that tend to fall within that general same price range that you're looking at. Obviously, if you have a $20,000 budget, you're not going to book an $8,000 photographer, or you might be, which would be foolish. I wouldn't recommend doing that, okay? You might be a little bit more mindful of your finances and not spend, I don't know, almost 50% on photography, but what do I know? This is just my life's work. And then the last local/searchable tool that I highly recommend taking a look at is Budget Savvy Bride. She has an entire library. I love what she's got going on over there of real life weddings. So you can search for a wedding in your area at your price point. Now, this is not all encompassing. Last time I talked about this was literally, I think like 3.5 years ago, okay? And there were some people in the comments were like, there's no one in my area that has a $5,000 wedding. I get that. It's not going to be perfect, but at least it could provide some inspiration for you. Or if you broaden your search or broaden your price point just a little bit, maybe you use this to find a local venue in your area that might be a little bit at your price point, but then you get to be DIY and creative with the other elements to make sure you still stay in budget. The second section is content. This is where you educate yourself on how wedding planning works. Obviously, you're here. This is some of the educational content. I call it edutainment. I think it's educational entertainment, right? The whole purpose of this is for you to walk away having learned something and to feel more equipped and empowered to make wedding planning decisions. And obviously I have like 6 years of content here. There's so much that you can look through. In fact, if you were looking for something specific, go to YouTube on your desktop and there will be an option to search through my content. There's literally a search bar. If you're like, I know Jamie has this in the title of a video somewhere and I can't quite find it. This one is searchable as well, but it's a little bit more clunky. It's not like Facebook or Instagram is, but there is that option here. Now, obviously here, you're already watching some of my content. Let me highlight another content creator for you who is doing an incredible job, and that is Lauren over at Bluebird Bride Academy. She has got almost 18,000 subscribers. She is uploading some crazy good videos. You should absolutely go check out her content. And she is UK based. So for any of my friends across the pond who need something more culturally nuanced for what you're planning over there, obviously I've literally only been to one English wedding in my life. She would be a great resource for you. And if you just want to consume more wedding planning content, please feel free to go check her out. I will go ahead and link her down below. She just seems so joyful. Like, what a treat to follow and what a treat to watch. Another fantastic option for learning how to plan a wedding, and I can't impress this upon you enough, you do need to immerse yourself in some of the educational stuff. A checklist is not going to get you very far if you don't really know how this whole wedding planning process works. So I highly encourage consuming content, one, because it's fun, and two, because it's educational and you can get a better idea to, again, be empowered to make decisions for your wedding day. So some of my favorite podcasts, the Big Wedding Planning Podcast, Michelle, Angel Baby Nugget, I love her. I love her so much. I love her no-nonsense approach. I love her perspective. I love her yawas, you ask, we answer. And she just really has a great heart and a great spirit behind why she does what she does. So if you are interested, her podcast is now subscription-based, but I highly encourage you check her out. She also offers one-on-one coaching, which is nuts. That's a real-life wedding planner who is like available to you through Voxer. Insane. God bless her for doing the Lord's work with that one. And a couple of other podcasts that have come across my radar within the last couple years would be the Hugh I Do podcast. And here's why I love their podcast specifically. Here's their perspective. It's hosted by two best friends that were each other's maid of honors and are now newlyweds. And here's why I love their perspective specifically is because they're not wedding planners. They're brides that have already gone through this process and they're here to talk about it from their perspective, which I think is really, really helpful. But they don't just stop there. They bring on experts and chat with them there. The next podcast is This or That, Wedding Planning Decisions with Kelly McWilliams. I love this perspective because she gives you two options and talks through the merits of each of them. So if you are stuck on a decision, you're like, I don't know. I don't know what's the right choice here. Go look at her podcast. She will literally break it down. And most of these look like they're like, 10 to 20 minute podcasts. So it's a really quick listen. So here's what the podcast has to say, just so I don't butcher it. In each episode, Kelly and her wedding professional co-host will help engaged couples navigate planning by weighing the pros and cons, this versus that, of each decision they'll need to make from engagement to honeymoon and everything in between. And Kelly's been in the wedding industry for over 20 years, so she is an absolute wealth of knowledge. And then last but most certainly not least, me. I have a podcast. We launched it a couple of years ago. I don't talk about it very often here on this channel because people get uncomfortable with self-promotion. And by people, I mean me. Because last time I made an online resources video, I didn't have this podcast yet. And you guys, I am so deeply honored and humbled to tell you that this is in the top 1% of podcasts. It's insane. We have over 250 5-star reviews. Y'all need to go over there and check it out. It's called Engage with Jamie Wolfer. And while you will find some crossover content here from YouTube, because obviously hashtag content repurposing, the whole intent of this is to be like a quick little chat with your wedding planner where I tackle topics in like easy bite-sized pieces. So you don't have to spend an hour and a half listening to a podcast hoping that you're going to get an answer. There's a time and a place for those, but when you are planning a wedding and you're stressed out and you're like, I just need to figure out how to navigate this. or I just need to figure out what the answer to this is. My hope is that this podcast will be a fantastic resource for you. I'm going to go ahead and link it right up here. And we cover everything from AITAs to wedding horror stories to finding inexpensive florals, how to plan a wedding for less than $10,000, kind of all the same stuff that we do here, just in podcast form, and with varied new original content over there as well. So I highly recommend you check that out. Honorable mention, I totally realized I just said last but not least, Dom and his wife, I forget her name, over at The Wedding Duo. Fantastic. He's a DJ. She's a wedding planner. What a powerful perspective to bring together, and an absolute powerhouse of a couple in the wedding industry. Okay, so we've searched for our vendors. We now have educated ourselves a little bit. We've got content online, tons of wonderful creators out there. Obviously, you're here enjoying some of this. Now we need to actually put these into action, right? We got all the information we need. Now we need to actually start planning. Now we over at Wolfer & Company have a ton of resources for this, and I'm going to share those with you now because we have worked for years. Our battle cry has always been how do we serve budget couples? And how do we serve them in the most robust and intentional way as possible? So we have a whole myriad of things that you can choose from, and a bunch of fantastic resources that people literally just rave about. And it warms my heart because this is exactly why I'm here. This is exactly why I do this on the internet, is to help people like you plan as effectively as possible. So yes, I'm going to talk about some of the resources that I made because I made them for you. All right. So the first one is the Ultimate Wedding Planning Checklist. And it's literally exactly what it sounds like. Everything that you need in chronological order. This one's set at 12 months, but of course you can adjust as you see fit. All of the things that you need to check off your list, just one big master list. But one thing that we've done is we've stretched it out a little bit and made it feel not stressful. You know what I'm talking about? When you're download this checklist and it's 12 months on one tiny sheet and you're oh, good Lord. That's just detail after detail after detail. Size 8 font. And it's not, it's scary, okay? So we've done our best to make it visually not overwhelming, but also I've included any sort of content that you might need that would support that checklist item. So let's say you get to the point in the checklist where it says, get your tips ready for your vendors, and you go, what? What does that mean? How am I supposed to tip them? What am I supposed to do with tipping? Don't worry, we've got additional tipping information right there for you to use. So when I say it's the ultimate free wedding planning checklist, it literally has almost everything you could possibly need. Now, if you are the type to download a checklist like this and be this is great, and then forget about it, don't worry. If you tell me what your wedding date is, and if you'd like me to, I will email you reminders of when you should be doing things. So not only do you have this great, fantastic ultimate wedding planning checklist, but you got me in your inbox being hey friend, do you do this yet? Hello, lovely human. This is coming up on your radar. You might want to be aware of this. Again, in chronological order. So you're not getting information about a venue when you're 3 months away from your wedding and you have most of your vendors picked, okay? Now let's say you need even more support beyond that. That's where the master plan comes in. And yeah, I'm going to talk about it because I'm obsessed with this program. You guys, for less than $1 a day, you too could sponsor a child. No, for less than $1 a day, you have access to my entire wedding planning process that I use with my actual clients. Literally, the budget spreadsheet that I use with my clients is in there. Fully comprehensive, everything that you need with drop-down menus that you can drop down and then compress if it gets to be too overwhelming. Literally, the budget planning spreadsheet that I use with my clients is in this course. The RSVP spreadsheet that I use with my personal clients is in this course. It's everything that I walk my long-term planning clients through, from the very beginning to the very end, with this insanely comprehensive Google Sheets workbook that you can access from anywhere, from your phone, from your laptop, from your desktop, etc. So anytime that you're doing wedding planning or you're oh, hey, I forgot to add this person to our guest list, you can just jump on and add it in there. The spreadsheet also has 2 different day of timeline options for you, a vendor contact sheet. I cannot tell you the amount of people that have come back and said, oh my gosh, I love this vendor contact sheet because everyone keeps asking me for my vendor contact information, and I can just send them access to this sheet just once, and then they have it. So I don't have to keep copying and pasting over and over and over again. I can just invite my vendors to this spreadsheet, right? And they can just look at it and have access to it. And I don't have to keep repeating myself, because when you get to the end, every single vendor is going to be asking these questions. So from a wedding planner's perspective, I know everything that they're going to need, right? I know that they're going to need an office number, a day of phone number. That one's important. They're probably going to want their Instagram information, etc. All of that is ready to go for you right here. I also have email templates for you. I walk you through how to run your own rehearsal if you need help with that. It's everything you need to plan your wedding for $29 a month. And I am extremely aware that people think I'm undercharging. In fact, we've had some people say that they were hesitant to sign up because the price tag seemed too good to be true. But once they got in there, they were so glad that they did. In addition to that, I actually do live monthly phone calls where I will do a full hour-long Q&A to answer whatever questions you have and help you plan this as masterfully as possible. Let me check my list to see if I forgot anything else. No, that's pretty much it. You're going to want to find your vendors in a smart way, not an expensive way, and not in a way that vendors are paying extra to be in front of your eyeballs. You're also going to want to find vendors that are connected to people that you know or that you get word of mouth feedback, hence Facebook groups and Instagram asking for preferred vendors, and looking at resources like Budget Savvy Bride to get you both local and realistic views on what weddings could look like for your price point in your area. Secondary to that, we've got educational, right? The content that you can consume. I will leave all of those content creators and podcasters in the description box if you really want to submerge yourself into this. And if you want to check out Engage with Jamie Wolfer, because it's cheesy, we love a good pun, I will leave that down there as well. And then once you're ready to start putting all of these into action, you need a roadmap, you need a checklist, you need accountability, and you may even need someone to hold your hand throughout this process. And that is what the master plan is for. You guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If there are other online resources or other content creators that do wedding planning stuff that you find helpful, please drop them into the comments down below. You guys are an incredible resource when it comes to this stuff. I absolutely love hearing what you guys came up with. In fact, I looked at the comments from the last time I made a video like this, which was like 3-4 years ago, and got some great ideas from there as well. You guys, thank you so much for watching. I adore you to pieces. If you haven't done so already, jump on down there, hit the like button, and subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks for the modern broke bride. Because we don't have no money, so we need all the free or cheap resources. And for $1 a day, you too can sponsor your online wedding planner, and I will help you plan your wedding. And until next week, bye guys!